Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the LittleWins podcast, season 3 of Wow, That's Fantastic. This is episode 2, and I'm kind of nervous, to be honest. I am so excited to talk about something that's come up in conferences that I've been to, in many of our different forums or portals of individuals with questions regarding vision loss. And I am so grateful that I get to know Julie Tai, who is the president of Hadley, and we all get to learn from, if we're going to learn or need to know all the things about vision loss, what a person to hear it from. So welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
We are very grateful. So vision loss, I want to get into Hadley, and I want to get into your experience and how you got here, because truthfully, while I know you, I don't get to know that part of you just yet. So we're going to get to know it together. But these numbers are startling. I'm just going to read a few, and then you can correct me if I'm wrong. It says here that according to the CDC, approximately 12 million people 40 years and over in the United States have vision impairment, including 1 million who are blind, 3 million who have vision impairment after correction, and 8 million who have vision impairment due to uncorrected refractive error, and that they will double those numbers in 10 years or less. So it's that,
so it's really, we talk about vision loss among adults as the unseen, ironically, the unseen epidemic.
Mm-hmm.
And this is due to the aging of the population and age-related eye disease, such as macular degeneration, diabetic retinopathy, glaucoma, and cataracts.
Mm-hmm.
So what we tend to focus on are those people who are visually impaired. That is, they cannot see even with with correction, and those folks who are completely blind. So today, among particularly, and it's hard to get these numbers because people count different ways, but for the population that we're really focused on, the older adult population, roughly 5.5 million fall into those two serious categories: visually impaired or blind.
5.5 million.
5.5 million, and that number is expected to double within the next 10 years and continue to increase even after that, because it is the aging of the population. So in 10 years, we're looking at over 10 million older adults who can't functionally see.
Okay, so what do we attribute this to? Let's start there. Is it because it does feel like it's on a trajectory of just like kapow?
Oh, it's absolutely on a kapow trajectory, and it's the aging of the population. We're living longer.
Okay.
So we're more subject to age-related issues, diseases, dementia. More people have Alzheimer's now than had a generation ago, because our generation is living longer. Right. So as we age, those of us who we hope to have an old age. But if you live long enough, 1 in 3 of us, and I put myself in the older adult category, 1 in 3 of us will have either blindness or significant visual impairment. So I always say to people, if you're, and it's, as you see, it's an unseen epidemic. If you're at a crowded intersection in the city of Chicago waiting to cross the street, and there are 10 older adults who are with you, you can expect that at least 3 of them are having difficulty figuring out how to cross the street. They don't have white canes, they don't have guide dogs, they have an inconspicuous disability, but a serious one.
Yes, and I, I took that to heart when I read that, because it says for over the age of 40 and over, or whatever. I'm turning 40 this year. I'm super psyched about it. I think getting older is a gift. So, but when you read it, you're like, oh,
yeah,
okay. Yeah. I think that it's something that when you combine vision loss or any of these variations of terms with the word disability, it makes people feel, I wrote down some of the words that stuck out in messages, and I don't name names so nobody gets scared, but it's like ashamed and fear and all of these things that are going to keep them probably, right? Hopefully not, from seeking any form of help. And as someone who is almost 40, I'm here to learn, because I could be one of those three and I don't care. So let's hear about what we can do. I want to know though, so just a little background. I am on the women's board for Hadley, and I'm a proud member. I couldn't believe they let me in. I'm here to learn always, but I'm so blown away when you first showed me the facility at Hadley, but also in your reach for the nation, for everyone, and the support groups and all of that, and we'll get to it. But to know that this is here is why we do this podcast. Mm-hmm. You got to know. And if you're at that crosswalk and you're one of those people who is like, oh gosh, I can't totally see where I'm going, know that these are the numbers. You're not alone. And that, we're just, okay, so we're aging. What do we do about it? And know where to go. So Hadley, for those who don't know, has been around for almost 100 years or over
100 years,
over
yep.
100 years. And maybe you should tell them a little bit about Hadley.
All right. So let me tell you what we do. And then we can talk a little bit, if you'd like, about the history. But what we do is that we exist to help adults with vision loss discover new ways to do just daily things that are made more difficult by loss of vision. So pouring a cup of coffee without getting burned, or using your phone to read your mail because you can't.
Yes, finding your prescriptions. That's one that gave me chills when I saw that video.
Exactly. These things that really matter. So discovering these new ways, because you can maintain your independence. We also, and you put your finger on it, we also connect people with others who are going through what they're going through, because nobody should have to go through this alone.
Mm-hmm. Because they're not alone. And that's the thing, right. Because you are not alone. And therefore, right. Let's bring you all together. Let's bring us all together so that you know that you are not alone. And there's so much power in that.
That's right. And then something else you said that's really critical is the sense of the emotions you feel, the fear, the shame. One way to help folks deal with those natural feelings that they're normal, to be expected, is to give them control over their experience. So at Hadley, you're in control. You can access us privately, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You don't need anybody's help to get our help. And then the icing on the cake is that everything we do at Hadley is completely free of charge.
I was waiting to tell him that it's completely free of charge, folks. Right. Like you. And this is the gift that I am so grateful to have, is to share these stories and these incredible organizations, because I think that when I walk, out, when I'm crossing the street, I see a lot of fear and despair and loneliness and lack of connectivity sometimes. And I feel like people work really hard, don't make enough money, and things are hard. Well, this isn't one that has to be, because here is the solution. And it's so cool the way you've done it, your entire space, and it's online, right? Like, let's tell them how they can reach you. How can they reach you?
So the easiest way is to get online and go to hadleyhelps.org. Mm-hmm. And our website is our product. So you access us, you sign in. It's a 4-step process. Give us your name, give us your email address, let us know what your relationship with vision loss is, then let us know how you heard about us. And then once you take those 4 steps, we have a catalog of over 400 short instructional videos that help you with activities of daily living, help you know what's available in technology. I mean, your iPhone is one of your best friends for accessibility.
Mhm.
We help you figure out how to adjust to this new normal, because it is an adjustment. We give you tips on how to be able to continue working. And then we have a big suite of recreational workshops. How can you continue to enjoy gardening or craft or cook?
Do you really? You
Yes.
even go that far? Because yeah, that's enjoyment, right? I love gardening. I know you do too.
Right.
I mean, you guys at Hadley have beautiful gardens. There's
We
something to it, but you do, I can imagine how that could be, discouraging.
It could feel that way, but you can still enjoy a beautiful garden even if you can't see it. You can touch it. Tactile plants.
Mhm.
You can smell it. You can put foliage in that will attract birds, so you can enjoy bird song.
Oh,
So it's not just about the green and the dirt. It's about the entire experience.
yes, it is. And you just jogged my memory in the awesome packet I received for I get to be a part of this really cool crew. There's a blindness etiquette
Mhm.
sheet. And I think that people need to hear all of these things. I'm just going to mention a few, but I'm going to include it in the blog. Feel free to use words like see and watch. But, right? How did you
Right.
watch the news last night?
Right.
I using person first language always on this podcast in my community and yours, it is ours. It's the same person first language. And to be reminded that, disability can sometimes be temporary. It can be something that affects your life for a moment or forever. And I'm really working hard to break down that stigma of what that word means to people, because we're all just people trying to get
Right.
through our day. And sometimes you need a surgery, and sometimes you're what is this? Sometimes you have glaucoma or cataracts, or you have, but that's all right. It's part of the human experience. So I'm going to include this blindness etiquette, and just it mentions something about
Great.
project feel.
Yes.
For those who need it in that blog, I think you've covered all the bases, Julie. And
So one
how do you
of
do
the
it?
things I want to mention is that if the odds are, if we're not ourselves experiencing vision loss, the odds are very high that somebody in our life is.
Mhm.
So a parent, an aunt, a grandparent. And to your point about the etiquette, there are ways that you can be helpful,
Mhm.
and there are ways to your loved one, and there are ways that you can be a deterrent. So we have something for you too. I really encourage people to go to our Adjusting to Vision Loss series, because we talk about how to offer help, when to offer it, when not to, when help is rejected, honor that from your loved one.
Yeah.
Because and actually what we tend to do is we overhelp, and that's not helpful. That doesn't foster independence.
Right. I just literally sat back down, although I've been seated this whole time. But that feeling where it's like, as a mother, you're like, oop, sometimes I do that too.
Right.
But awareness is key, and talking about it keeps us from doing it again. But it's not out of a bad place. It just isn't as helpful as we were trying to be. And so talking about that as well. Like I said, you have all the bases covered. I also love this handout that says very plainly, Hadley serves who? People who are blind or losing their vision. Why? To continue to enjoy life at home, at work, or in their communities. What? We provide practical help wherever they are. Yeah, you do. Whenever they need it. How? Online, by phone, or via US mail. And this is why You are the only one isn't it the world?
It is. We are. I
The
mean,
world. You're the only one in the world. You are the one.
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why we don't talk about, what we are, because there's no basis of comparison, but we talk about what we do.
Well, I'm going to talk about it because
Okay.
get to, but I'm going to air that right now, folks. There ain't anybody else out there doing it the way Hadley does. And that's why it's so super cool and not at all lost on me that I get to be here with you. And so they will know it. I will include all of the things, in the blog so that everyone has access to how to reach you and how to sign up.
Yeah.
And the support group too. That's why I built a connect and chat component on LittleWins, because it's so important to be able to foster that.
That's right.
Or at least allow access to each other. And then the individual makes a decision from there. And that's
exactly right. That's exactly right, Lexus. And vision loss is such an isolating experience. So that the discussion groups that we have 10 groups, different topics, each one meets once a month. And you can join in a discussion group and not say a word, but just hear that other people are hear their ideas, hear their experience, and you can see yourself in this larger group of people. But if you're an introvert, that's okay. Just come and listen.
For sure. I mean, people join, like, what are they joining? Like pick up soccer games because y'all have the same commonality, whatever your common denominator is, soccer, golf, whatever. It's not, it doesn't have to be strange, and everybody should come absolutely as they are. I love that you say that, because you know what? I know that people always say you're kidding when I tell them this, but I'm an introvert. I would be completely silent all the time if it would be beneficial, but it turns out that's not my job right now. So yeah, I'm nervous in public in those circles when they say, what's your name? And then tell us something about you. I'm like freeze mode.
Right.
I can't, where should I start? I love that you have that, just come as you are. You don't have to say anything. It's not required. Just know that there's a place you can go.
That's right.
Super important. So for these individuals, let's say myself, because hi, almost 40, how would I identify if I'm losing my vision? This is my fear, right? When I'm reading these emails, I'm like, fear, ashamed, terrified of, and it occurred to me that I hadn't thought about it. I have to wear these to block the blue light from the thing, because I don't think that's helping my vision. but how would I know?
Well, you'll know. And first of all, we should all be having routine ophthalmology appointments, because these are diagnosable conditions. Your ophthalmologist can see MACD, diabetic retinopathy, glaucoma. I think the biggest issue, and you sort of identified it earlier, Lexus, is the power of denial. I'll wake up tomorrow, I'm having this issue today, I'll wake up tomorrow and it will be okay. Or my glasses are dirty. But you can only stay in denial so long before you should reach out and see a specialist. Right. The sooner you begin to address your issue, acknowledge it, then you can start learning these new ways of doing things. So you like to cook, now you're afraid to cut an onion. We'll show you how to do that safely. So the earlier you begin this, the more independent you're going to remain.
Can we talk about how did you get into this role, Julie? How did you always have an interest, or what is your background?
Yes, so I
and I do my research, but
I'll try to be brief. But I in college I was a science major. It was the only thing I really liked to study, but I knew I didn't want to go into medicine. But at the time I was working while I was in college, and I worked in a hospital. I worked in the radiology department of a hospital, and I didn't like what I saw in terms of how patients were treated. And my boyfriend at the time got tired of hearing me crab about it. And he said, well, why don't you go get a degree in hospital management? So that's what I wound up doing. I went to Northwestern, got my MBA in healthcare administration. I worked the first part of my career in the hospital and acute care setting. And then it was a large health system that I worked in. And then I moved into the addiction treatment division that we had. So I spent 7 years in substance abuse treatment. And then I got a call one day from a former colleague who said, gee, there's an opening at a child welfare agency for a CEO. Are you interested? So at that point I was ready for my own show. And, human services is human services, right? Whether it's healthcare, whether it's child welfare, or whether it's vision services, those skills are all portable. It's the human condition doesn't change based on the sector, right?
Oh, say it again, just in case they heard it. The human condition
doesn't change based upon what sector.
Yes.
And it doesn't change over time either, by the way. So at any rate, so I worked for almost a quarter of a century, my God, in child welfare. And I was at a point in my career, I was 61 years old, and I was talking with somebody about either I commit for the next 10 years to this organization, or I need to make a move, because if I wait any longer, I'm going to be too old. And this fellow said, well, Hadley's looking for a new CEO. And it turned out one of my former board members at my old place, her husband is on the board of Hadley. And I called him. I said, Scott, what do you think? Should I apply? He said, absolutely. And what do you know? I got the job. That was in 2016.
But you know what's so cool about that? You just pulled so Hadley, truly, from everything we just talked about, what Hadley is, and it's not even half of it's just a quarter of what Hadley is. It's a high level approach. You landed there by pulling from each one of those things you just mentioned. That's what I heard from that.
Exactly.
The patient care. You're a scientist, but didn't want to go into like the healthcare field, but you have this fascination, and you have truly, from an outsider's perspective, applied all of that incredible knowledge, and that is why you're the only one that exists, and you have this reach, and with such integrity, which is extremely important to me. When it comes to business, it's so rare, to encounter a company of any kind, an organization with that kind of integrity and that kind of intelligence, because they don't always coincide. And of course you did. Well, since 2016. I love it.
We and you referenced earlier about, come as you are. We're really very committed to meeting people where they're at. And I do find in my career, the so-called professionals, tend to think they know what you need. Well, you know what you need.
Yes.
And our role is to listen to you and then provide what you need.
This came up in this week's podcast, where you need to be able to say, in any given situation, you are the professional of your child, of you are in a medical situation, and we all get intimidated. I mean, I do. I'm not a scientist, and I have before where you just think, well, you're a neuro genius person or whatever, all these acronyms after your name. Certainly I should take what you're saying as fact, and then it makes you feel all these feelings, and you're conflicted, and maybe it goes against the way you feel, or maybe you just need to know more, whatever is causing that. Know that that's okay, and to listen to that and go that direction too. You take all of that knowledge and keep what lands, and then leave the rest. And
that's exactly right.
Fiercely go forth towards, what you think your path is.
Now, it's scary if you're losing your vision, because, literally you may not feel like you can see your path, but that's what Hadley is for. Mm-hmm. We can help you get there.
Yes. And in every single way. How did you So if it's been around, so it's been around for over 100 years, as we established, it must have been such a process, but also I'd love to know high level, if you're open to sharing it, how did that happen? Because 100 years ago, even what we're saying for projections in vision loss going forward, that was based on, different kinds of science and data that we didn't have 10 years ago. So 100 years ago, what did it look like?
So 100 years ago, it's our founder, Bill Hadley, lost his vision completely later in life. He was a teacher, and he was an avid reader. His ophthalmologist encouraged him to learn braille. So he taught himself braille. And then he decided he was going to develop a curriculum to teach other adults like him from a distance. So he developed a correspondence program in teaching braille, if you could believe it. And that caught on like wildfire. And then being the teacher that he is, he started adding different, more curriculum. So he was teaching history, he was teaching composition, English composition, Latin, very academic, because at the time that was what was needed. People who were blind didn't have access. There was no ADA and all that kind of stuff, right? But yeah,
just 100 years ago.
That's right. But then the world changed and options opened up for people with blindness or disabilities.
Well, we're still working on that, but yes.
Well, but that's a good point. Opened up, didn't know completely get there.
We're getting there.
But the needs changed because now people who are dealing with vision loss, they don't need to learn how to write English composition. They already know that, right? Now what they need, though, is to learn how those practical tips to navigate their daily lives.
100%. And know that there are also these devices, by the way, that you can use. And I'll list those in the blog as well, to communicate in various different ways that are extremely innovative and really cool, like exciting to watch. These are the things that I like geek out about, clearly. But to know that all of that was done when none of this that we have existed is also very cool.
It really is. And I'll tell you, Bill Hadley was discouraged by the blindness community. They didn't believe he would be successful, and he persevered. So we are who we are today because that man didn't take no for an answer and had a vision that others didn't.
Vision. Yes. Losing his vision has the vision, though.
Yes.
And did not take no for an answer. I have chills everywhere, even on my face, which gets so uncomfortable. Some people we just, and I know you're one of them, I feel like I'm one of them. You just know, hell or high water, it will, if you build it, they will come.
That's right. And
the ones who need it.
That's right. And I think that I want to give credit to Hadley's Board of Trustees, because 6 years ago, we looked very much like what we look like under Bill Hadley. We were very academic. We treated our clients, we called them students, we treated them as children. It was a pedagogical teaching model, which adults don't respond to. So we had to do a 180. We really had to pivot and completely throw out the old model.
This is on my list of questions. When did the pivot happen? So because it's a hard pivot, folks. And you said completely throw out, and boy, did you ever. But it was almost like, from what you read online, because I wasn't there, right? From what I've seen, it was like you already had a game plan. It was like you already had the roadmap, because it was so fast in the way that you did this incredible, with such precision, like you had been gathering years of data on what didn't work. But I don't think you did.
We didn't, and it gets, but it was close. It gets back to my point of, we started by listening. Yes. We looked at the experience people were having with us, and we found that for every 100 people who came to our website and tried to engage with us, only 17 people actually wound up finishing one time we called it core. So we had an 83% attrition rate, and we asked people why. The application process was too long. You're treating me like a child. I don't want all of this. I just want short, practical help. So we listened intently, and then we designed. So this is what we heard. We designed a prototype. We tested the prototype with those same people we consulted at the beginning. They gave us feedback. We did another iteration, and we kept doing that until we started hearing, yes, that's it.
And that's how it's done. That's how it's done, folks. And it's hard to hear sometimes because I do the same thing, with LittleWins. Just give me all, like, I'll take that. And then when you get quite a few of the same response, that's when you make those pivots. You say, all right, this is what the people need. Why would you try to go off of any other directive? These are the people that you're meant to serve. I don't see that happening in a lot of other organizations or businesses, to be honest with you, that following that lead just 150% boldly. You don't always see that. But I think it's the only way to do it.
It really is. And I'm a big fan of Jim Collins and his good to great principles. And if you trust those principles, it works. It actually works. And it's just,
it works. We built it together, folks. Like we can't be out here trying to figure it out and come up with something that will be helpful if you don't talk to us. So it's equal reciprocity, right? It's a whole cycle. Right. It's a tribe. It goes back to the beginning of time. This is how we work together. You talk to me and I'll talk to you, and we're going to find the solution. And then we can get there faster than if I just try to guess. Exactly. But if they don't talk to you, then you won't be able to know where to go. But if they talk to you and you don't listen, then it doesn't change. So what happened there was synergy. And that's the only way we're going to move forward as like a human race, in my very humble, uneducated opinion. But that's where it's at, folks.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's scary. We don't like generally to relinquish control, but it can feel like that when you're asking for feedback and then acting on it.
And you can get defensive. I've gotten a couple messages where I'm like, hold up, listen, Linda, you have 2 logins and you're using the wrong one. Like, don't come at me like that. But after I think a couple of years, you just realize that everybody has a question. Everybody needs help. There's nothing. I don't think that people mean to hurt each other. So it's most important to listen to each other and work together. And that's how we get where we're supposed to be going a lot faster. And you did that. And you did it in a short turnaround.
It was fast. And that it was a little breathtaking.
Yes, it is for me too.
But it's ripping the Band-Aid off is generally the best way to do it. And we have, it's not past tense, we have some really, really talented, committed, passionate team members. You
have all the best. Let's just say you can be coy about it, but I'm just saying you have literally all the best. You've got the team. You got the team. I can say what's true. You be coy. That's perfect.
We do. It's a remarkable team.
It's remarkable. Yes. Like, you're in good hands. This is an open closed thing for me. I was like, what am I even going to talk to this brilliant woman about? Because all I really need to tell you is that as the people, anyone who's listening, is that this is happening. The trajectory is doing the kaboom. My scientific word I used earlier, is it kaboomski? And not to fear it. Don't fear it, because you're super not alone. The numbers are there. The information is now here, and all the things that you need to live your daily life. And don't think that it's something that's wrong with you. It's just part of the human experience, right?
But it's an adjustment.
It's going to be an adjustment, but I want it to be like,
right.
You don't fear it. Because why do I feel like it's going to happen to me? And I'm just like talking to myself right now.
Or talk about your fear. I mean, it's hard to quash our feelings. So if you feel fear, which is normal, talk about it.
Mhm.
And because you're not alone. Fear is the first reaction you're going to feel. And again, that sense of shame, because
The sense of shame. I mean, I had this, I'm sure everyone has, but there's been moments, where I had like a foot surgery. I've had different things that took me out, right? And there were moments with my kids or something else where I couldn't physically do it. Maybe I just had a C-section. I couldn't physically lift one of my other kids. And then you feel this like shame. Where does it come from, by the way? Can we squash that? It does. And I think it is another part of the multifaceted experience of a human condition, where it just comes out of thin air. But to understand and recognize that it's the fear that is more debilitating, I think, than the actual just process to getting the care that you need, or the process of getting through what it is.
Because it can paralyze you.
Yes.
And it can keep you stuck.
The fear will keep you stuck if you just stay right there. The shame, the guilt, the whatever. I saw that in that moment where I was like, all right, so I'm just going to tell my kids, so listen up. I had a C-section. They did this whole thing and I can't pick you up right now. It's just, it's not medically recommended by 10 out of 10 doctors. It's like a thing,
You're allowing yourself to be vulnerable with other people, right? And we're learning so much more now about how empowering vulnerability can be, but it's still scary.
It's scary, but I mean, I just go straight out with vulnerability. I don't know any other way. I mean, the rest of it seems a little bit more uncomfortable, I think, for me. But thank you for going down that little path with me. It's important to me that others know, especially given the messages that I've received on this specific topic, and knowing, what you have to offer, and being given the opportunity to see it firsthand, which is blows my mind. I don't want people to fear being vulnerable, not in this community, not protected by people like you, by me, by all the many people that we know. Come as you are, and know that we have made solutions to these things. And it's just part of being a human being. Nobody's like, what is perfect anyways? That's gross. I have a thingy here that I want to literally purchase, because clearly you spent a lot of money on this, for anyone who wants to see it. But I'm holding, for those who are not going to see the video, who are listening, I'm holding a card that says low vision focus at Hadley. And what's really cool about it is it has an eye shape for each one of them. Correct me if I'm wrong, but these are the major categories of vision loss. Yes. Macular degeneration, diabetic, oh gosh.
Retinopathy.
Thank you. Syllables. So, yeah, glaucoma and cataracts. Okay, so I did this myself. So you can put your eye in it. It's like a magnifying glass in 4 different places with the definition of each one. And when you do it and you look, I think this is so incredible that you provide this. So let's say, like you said before, maybe it's your loved one or your aunt or whoever. If you know that this is what they're experiencing, put yourself in their shoes. That's what, anytime anyone's asked me, so what would I do with my building to make it wheelchair accessible? Put your ass in a wheelchair is what you do.
Right.
And you figure out really quickly.
That's right.
Really quickly how to solve for that. But this, I mean, if anyone wants this card, I will post a picture of it as well, just to see, maybe this could be helpful in itself.
Let me say something about that. It's a really good point to, put yourself in somebody else's position.
Yeah.
The other thing that to keep in mind, if you know somebody's experiencing vision loss, there will be moments where their vision is clearer.
Mm.
And then you get to think, well, they're malingering. But it might be as the day wears on, their eyes get tired and they lose some of the acuity. It's not a constant, not even during the day. So it fluctuates very often.
Wait, that's a great point. I didn't know that. That's got to be even more terrifying for the individual.
Well, so here's the good news with vision loss is that it's gradual. So you do come to kind of be able to predict some of it. So you might know at the end of the day, I'm particularly sensitive to bright lights, so I'm for sure going to close my shutters at that point.
Yeah.
But for those of you who are living with somebody with vision loss, just know that at points they're going to look as if they have, or they're going to behave as if they can see perfectly. And at that moment in time, they may not be having an issue.
That's so important to note. And then you just reminded me of something I completely forgot about it. In my early 20s, I had a couple where I drove 4 hours there and back every day.
Yowza.
For a long, yeah, it was a big deal. But I had a Volkswagen Golf. I can't believe I'm having this flashback. And I'm low to the ground, right? So in Wisconsin, Michigan, Indiana, this whole area, it was at those hours, a lot of trucks. I'm in the Volkswagen Golf of the early 2000s, if not late 90s. And their headlights would give me a horrible headache. And I went to my eye doctor and I said, hi, I get these headaches and I almost want to put sunglasses on. Like I flip the rearview mirror up, but it's still, I'm just getting blasted for 4 hours after being in an 8-hour workday, and I drove 4 hours there. What do I do? And I got these like really cool glasses that had a film over them too, where I could see very clearly, obviously, but it protected my eyes from that light beam, and it helped me tremendously. But it was something that was concerning to me. Because if your lights are blasting me through the rearview mirror and I'm in this tiny car and it's already late and my eyes are tired, I was in my early 20s, folks, like it wasn't like now. And it still was something that made me feel like I was blinking, like I couldn't see, and I felt unsafe.
Yep. And that's a really good description of what some vision conditions will do to a person, how they'll experience it.
But they had a solution. And I was like nervous to go. I just was like, no one else seems to be complaining, right? I'm looking at other smaller vehicles. No one else seems to be upset, but I have lighter eyes and, whatever. But who cares? I don't even need that reason, but I have that too. Thank you for reminding me of that. I completely forgot that until just now. But those glasses were really cool. They were like very John Lennon vibe.
Okay.
kind of rad and extremely helpful, and probably a large part of why I was able to continue doing that forth on repeat for years. Had I not have done that, I never unpacked that. I want to talk about I could talk to you all day. I want to talk to you about braille. So before I stop taking up all of your time. There's a thing in elementary schools nowadays, which is really cool. When you were in school, did they teach sign language?
No, not in my day.
But so they did in mine, but then they skipped a lot of people. I feel like a lot of people went through without that, but just the alphabet. And I have found that knowing that in critical situations, one time in an airport, one time I was in a grocery store, and knowing just the alphabet helped me help someone else. I found it to be, I think about it a lot. What if I didn't know that? I wouldn't have been able to understand what this person was saying to me. And it wouldn't be able to understand that it's okay. Just the IT, it's okay. I feel the same way about braille. And I think what the general population, from what I've heard, and everyone's going to blast me if I'm wrong, but from what I've heard in conversations, they think Braille is something that's been left with rotary phones and things from the
Sure.
past, you know. They're wrong.
Yes, they are.
And they're wrong. Like, I would be more gentle if there was a way. But I have this, you know, this card with the Braille, and I've been working on learning it myself. We talked about this because in case of emergency, you know, I don't know, for any other reason, we learn things for in case of emergency, of emergencies that may never happen all the time. It's a stigma. It's like the stigma we talked about in the beginning of, you know, a disability or whatever, but this is intelligence. You know, other languages, you can speak in different ways. That gives you access to being exactly who I think, you know, who you're meant to be. So you've come up with a really rad way of doing this, and it's super fresh. It's going to trend. We're going to make it trend. And I want you to tell them why.
So Braille is important for two reasons. First of all, for kids who experience blindness at a very young age. And the good news is that that number of kids is decreasing due to better prenatal treatment, et cetera. But for those kids who are going to experience blindness, it is the way they will be literate. Now, one of the things that we always hear people say is, well, why do you need Braille anymore when everything is audible?
Can I tell you one reason? Someone wrote in to me and said that they were stuck in an elevator, the lights went off. And
well,
there was one person who could read the Braille for the call button, and that's why.
All right, well, you just stole my second reason.
Oh gosh. Oh.
But you're absolutely right. Just for everyday use, so to identify the floors on an elevator, or the difference between the men's room and the ladies' room. Those are, we call it Braille for everyday use. And, you know, adults who are beginning to lose their vision, you know, they're not going to go back and learn the, you know, all, you know, how to read Moby Dick in Braille. They already have literacy. What they need Braille for is, I always say it's not literacy, it's dignity. So they can independently push that floor button or the ATM machine or whatever.
The ATM machine, like things that make you feel like a grown-up, which one is the men's or the women's? And by the way, can't we keep it one side or the other so it's a little bit more congruent? But whatever.
Right.
But yes, and the way that you've made this, I think it's fashion, and I practice it all the time. I've made it something that we all do in my household. And I told you, I also am, you know, we're patent pending on Braille labels for everything. And it's for you. You can use it however you want. I just had to get ahead of it. I just want people to be able to read between mild and medium of the salsa that they want.
That's right.
You know,
that's right.
Or your prescription, buy the shoes you want, like what size is it? There's no reason it's imprinting, you know, it's just an imprint on a label machine that you already have. But that is, if the kaboom trajectory is where we're going, let's make it fashion. And everybody know it's just the alphabet. This isn't hard. And it's actually really cool. And I love anything that has been brought forward from its original state, especially, I mean, when was Braille created?
Oh, in 1700s.
Yeah, so like that's pretty rad.
And it's, you know, it was developed by Louis Braille. I think he was like 16 years old. And it was based on military code, but and we call it, we talk about Braille, and you haven't done this, Alexis, but others tend to talk about Braille as a language. It's not, it's a code. The language is English, right? So Braille is the code that that kind of translates the language, or Braille for, you know, French and all of the major languages, but it is a code, and it's to discern all kinds of things.
I love math. And yes, but I love that you said that because I was hesitant to use the sign language comparison because that is a language. But I think you know, I hope it made sense.
It
The
did.
coding part of it is I've been in flight school and there is Morse code that you use.
Right.
And a lot of it coincides with the beep, beep, beep of these bumps in braille. A lot of it does. And so when you start to put those things together, it's fascinating. And
It
it's
really
more
is.
interesting than Netflix.
Just 2 columns of 3 rows
Mhm.
that you can express the entirety of the English language in numbers, punctuation, and even contracted braille. So it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant.
Brilliant. And that's how it's sustained, like all of these many different centuries. You provide this in every packet, which is incredible. So you have, the awesome vision example you have within the packet. I brought it all with me to Denver.
Thank you.
Well, no, I love it. And no, thank you. Because you gave every tool. And that's what I found was so incredibly beautiful, remarkable, innovative, and important for a company to do. You armed me with all the tools. If I needed it outside of my own just fascination and desperate need to learn, but if I needed this for my eyes, I had it all there. I wouldn't even have to call you, which is it's a new thing. It's a new way of doing business. You don't have to call for the answers and tell them the problem. This company, Hadley, this organization, which I just think is a really incredible way of going about it. You're armed with the tools. You can call back with questions, but you get it right firsthand for you to be able to just digest and make friends with and peace with and whatever you need to do.
Yeah, and I said it, folks, and your kids might be interested in this. Go to hadleyhelps.org and click on Braille. And for those of you who have sight, you'll learn Braille, and you can do it on your phone. You can do it on your laptop, and it's fun. And I warn you, it is addicting. Once you start,
that's the only thing I was going to say. So I showed my kids, and it's addicting. I had to be like, okay,
yep,
I'm out. But it is addicting, and it's so cool. So Julie Ty, I'm going to include all of these. I just don't even know. I'm not even worthy. It's like one of those things where you're like, I'm not worthy. But for sharing all of this information, for the work that you've done your whole entire life, for that has moved this needle forward with such heart. It's like this pure heart of just a need to help others. It's such a pleasure to know you. It's an honor to be able to share your story. I think what you've created is an absolute legacy that I know how it was started, but boy, did you carry it on so that it would maintain.
Thank you. But there's a whole team behind me. Don't forget this.
Oh no, I've met them all. And by the way, they're all, as we already established, like the best of the best. Yeah. They're truly, she can build a team, folks. But you do incredible work. Thank you for sharing all of this and for the things that you do.
No, you're welcome. And thank you for having me and being able to talk about it. It's fun to talk about.
Okay. Next time, can we do your personal story? I just want to
discuss that.
why am I still like, there's something she needs to tell me. I'll leave you alone, but I mean, just for a minute.
Okay. And you know where to find me is the thing.
I know, we live right next to each other. It's creepy. I'll find you. Really, you will. Thank you for everything. Okay, I'll see you soon.
Take care. Have a good evening. Love you.
I love you. Thank you.
Bye, Alexis.
Bye.